Welcome back to Loose Frame Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Martin-Olich, and joining me as always is...
Jesse Brock.
Hi, Jesse. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am peachy.
Another day in Tampa Bay.
Another day in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
I don't know why that irks me so much. Just the way they say
if that
Tampa
irks
Bay.
you, wait till you see the new logo change.
Oh,
Film
no.
Tom Brady.
Oh. You're fired. This podcast is over. We're just going to end it right here.
Cut.
Yeah, we're finished. That's not happening. But we have a good show today.
We do.
Yeah. So we're switching up a little bit. We're having two guests on. So we got Dylan Melcher and Joe Pelham on. Mm-hmm. Dylan is a longtime DP photographer here in the area. Joe is a gaffer. He previously worked with Diamond View. Both of them really know their stuff. So hopefully we have some cool things to talk about.
And he got started as a skateboarder.
It's skateboarding videos,
yeah,
but
skateboarding videos. But that's huge in Tampa spot.
It is.
And like, I don't know, when I was in high school, skateboarding
we had the old Bro Bowl. Does the Bro Bowl even exist? Did we get rid of that?
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh, sorry.
Is that like BMX?
Inside baseball.
Or?
No. The Bro Bowl was the big skate park downtown. But anyway.
Someone listening will probably know what you're talking about.
Someone somewhere will know what I'm talking about. The three people that listen to the podcast. But no, we have an actual larger audience to that, I hope. Or you're lying to me. I'm not sure which. But
You'll
with that,
never know.
We'll never know because I don't know how to actually check those things. Or even how to find my podcast. You have to send me the link. I'm that bad with technology. But with that, we'll be back with Dylan and Joe. Welcome back to Loose Frame Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Martin-Olich, and joining us now is Dylan Melcher and Joe Pelham. Hey, guys. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Well, it's going great this morning, so I appreciate you guys being with us. I always start these podcasts off with a good housekeeping question. Just give us a little sound bite of who you are, what your background is. We'll start with you, Dylan.
Sure. So right now I'm a director, DP, filmmaker here in Tampa. And I really got my start doing photography, like most people in my generation. My father always had a dark room in our bathroom growing up, which is very dangerous looking back. And I shot my way through college doing photography. And I was a guy in the bar that shot photos and, gave you a card and asked you to go download your photo. And then got out of college and just naturally a client was like, I was still doing commercial photography a lot out of college. And the client was like, hey, can you do video? And I hit the video mode button on the 5D Mark II, which a lot of us all transitioned with. And here I am today.
Yeah. Joe, what about you?
I started in, high school and then worked my way into shooting weddings. And I think I knew at an early age, this is what I wanted to do, something in video, And then as it progressed, I grew up skateboarding and then got like the opportunity of a lifetime to go work for Tony Hawk's YouTube channel, like hit the road, like travel the world and then come back to Tampa and then hop back into production and like just trying to sharpen my skills with that. But
yeah. No, that's great. So two totally different paths.
Yeah.
Both sort of ended up leading both of you guys to being a cinematographer, to telling stories with light, and getting involved with the film industry. Dylan, you mentioned growing up with your dad having a dark room in the house, and that's a lot of chemicals to have a back bedroom or a bathroom. But can you remember some of the earliest images that your dad was composing or taking, and going through the experience of developing those photos? Were you in the room with him? Did he expose you to that?
Yeah. They're all black and white, and I just remember, when I think back, it's just shapes, right, and shadows and chemicals, the smell of it. I still can remember, and I did the same thing. I took fine art classes in college, and I developed. I went to Florida State University, and the darkroom was open 24 hours. Yeah. So I remember being there developing at 3-4 in the morning, which is pretty wild. But yeah, so I have memories of it, and they're faint, but it was always shapes. I can see shadows and light for sure for all the black and white.
Yeah. And did you always know this is what you wanted to do, or was it more of a hobby thing that turned into a career?
I didn't think. I always loved films growing up, right? Film was really important in our household, but there's no way. I grew up in Tampa. I moved away for a little while, but I came back. But there's no way you think you can work in movies or films, right? And content wasn't really a thing coming up, right? I mean, this is before Facebook and Instagram, and where content became king. So I didn't think it was I didn't think I had a chance. So it was a hobby. It was a way to pay, get cash in college. And coming out of college, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and it just started to unravel a little bit. I always had an eye for it. I always had a camera in my hand, and we had cameras everywhere in the house growing up, so it was natural. But I didn't know it was an option until recently, I guess. So that's kind of the story.
And Joe, what about you? I mean, was this always a career path for you, or did you just sort of land in your lap? Or was it skateboarding first, and then you started mixing the other stuff in?
It was like, I think that was the thing to do when you were younger. Like, someone had a camera, like film your friends, because you just were watching skate videos nonstop. It was like VHS era. Those were like, everything. There was no like YouTube, channels, and you just try to mimic that.
Yeah.
And then I got a camera pretty early, and that was like, it was just like, that's what got me into it, and it just became like, unraveled.
Well, was there a particular DP? Like, I mean, not that Spike Jonze is a DP, but was there someone doing it at the time that you sort of looked at and said, "Wow, this guy's doing it. Maybe I could do it too."
Probably my favorite was Jason Hernandez. He worked for like Nike. I always remember he had like the smallest clip, like the fastest clip in like a skate video that was like the coolest shot ever, and it's just like, that was just, I don't know, something about that was just so cool to me. And then his like, how he filmed skating was like insane. It was just,
it's all like fisheye stuff.
Fisheye, but he, that was another thing. He was the one that was like, taking the fisheye off for a lot of stuff. That wasn't just always like, we're not just filming lines. He would like, he would take his time and, shoot the scenery and shoot the cities they were in. And his stuff like was super inspiring.
Which is interesting, brings up a thought or a question. Two very different backgrounds. I would assume someone with more of a, I don't want to call it a fine art, but more of an eye towards traditional photography. There's more of a, not a static composition, but more of a thought, like a tableau. You're creating something, whereas I would assume videoing anything as kinetic as skateboarding. There's a lot of movement just natural to it. Do you think that your individual backgrounds, and this is a question for both of you guys, has influenced your style from your start till now, or have you sort of shed that skin and done something totally different?
There are two different styles of filmmaking. One's objective and one's subjective. So you're correct. The photography is a very objective way to look at an image, right? It's very static, and a lot of good films to this day are very objective. It feels like you're watching a play unfold. And skateboarding is, highly subjective. You're there, you're immersed. The fisheye, that style is obviously you are a member of the skateboarding crew, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yes, me coming from that objective point of view is definitely shaped the way I frame things and look at it. But I also try to be a rebel against that, and sometimes if I'm feeling too objective with it, I'm like, let's just tear it down and let's get the camera loose and move, and don't get so hung up on the lights and the perfection of the composition.
Yeah, I could go both ways with that, where like, all these rules and you're told like, light from this side, then shadow side, but sometimes like we can throw all that out, and that's like, let's go weird and abstract, and but it all depends on, it's all situational. But yeah.
So, I love what you just set up there, the subjective versus the objective. Now that you're working on commercials, music videos, whatever it is, what is your creative process in working with a director? Because I think there's a lot of creativity you give up, but also can gain by working with someone back and forth. Whereas if you're just pursuing, no one's telling you how to shoot a skateboard video. You're just doing it, right? No one's telling you how to compose your shots. So how has that developed as you've transitioned in more of a professional career, working with someone that might be telling you, hey, I want this shot? Do you still feel liberated to do your own thing, or is it more of an amalgamation of working with within their restraints?
I would say the story drives everything. Right, you have to be true to whatever the story is going to be told. So, for example, if I'm DPing something, I'm working with a director. We are doing weeks, and we don't really have the luxury to do months, but we're doing weeks of pre-production where we're watching films together, we're sharing imagery, and we're kind of getting on we're using the same language, right? Yeah. So when and that the director's job there is to make sure that's being pushed on to the DP, right? Like, this is how it needs to go here, because the director has this macro level of a shoot, and it's his job or her job to make sure all the pieces are lining up correctly. Everyone on the crew, sometimes doesn't really have that macro vision. So where I'm going with that is that, so when it finally comes to the shoot day, hopefully you've had enough prep to where you're on the same page. And when you can take some liberties, but it needs to be within that world of the story. You can't deviate and go away from what the story's trying to tell.
I mean, I would like more of that, like a director reaching out to me and like just filling me in as a gaffer, like or any kind of grip and electric, like just to have that imagery, because I don't think that gets done enough with it.
Translated,
I don't think that's. That's something we could do better at.
We've done a disservice to our audience here. Let's define what a gaffer's role is and what a DP's role is, because I think there's a lot of people that graduate college right now or high school. Their parents buy them a camera or an RA light kit. It's like, hey, I can do all these things.
Yeah.
And they list themselves in a production guide, or they start trying to get jobs way above not necessarily their pay grade, but their experience level, even if they're extremely talented. So let's define what a DP is and then what a gaffer does.
Okay. A DP would be the head of the camera department and the lighting department. So, it's the DP's job to make choices both technically about the camera and lenses and also lighting, and then he translates that to the gaffer, who's in charge of grip and electric, essentially, or the top. I'll let Joe talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of it goes DP to me, and then as the gaffer, you have, hopefully have a team of like your key, your best boy, and it's like you're in charge of these guys, and like you have the instructions, and you tell them those instructions, and they use their best tools, and and it just goes down the line from there to like make get the lights on the set, you know, and then it's that's that.
But I imagine that took a lot of time to learn your own craft too. It's not just something you go out and buy off the shelf and have the knowledge and experience to know what you're doing. So how long did it actually take you in both of your careers to feel comfortable claiming yourself as a head of a department? Like what was your first experience saying, hey, I'm no longer the AC, I am DPing this job. I'm now, not best boy, I'm going to be the gaffer.
Yeah, I'm still not comfortable. I didn't come up the traditional way. A lot of people would come up like PAing and work their way up. Yeah. And then there's another way where a lot of us were photographers, in my generation that transitioned over to DP, So when did I make the shift to be professional? It's 10 years ago, I guess, right, is where I started doing that more regularly. I can remember some early times on set. It's a set's a dynamic place, right? There's certain lingo you have to use, and you have to understand the roles and responsibilities. And I remember in the beginning days fumbling, right? You don't really know. And even early on too, it was a little harder, right? Like the people are a little more specific on how you should operate and how you coil a stinger. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of rules, and it's gotten looser now with the newer generation, and we're trying to make set a little more enjoyable. But I'm still, every shoot's different too. I still have nerves before every shoot, even though they're becoming more second nature, and I'm preparing more for them. So it's important, right? The more you prepare, the more comfortable you feel.
Yeah. That's huge.
But now I'm, and also you start to develop your team, right? Which is important. I'm starting to work with Joe more and more. Really, hadn't worked together at all a year ago. And I think
we were trying.
Yeah, we've been trying for a while to work together
for some reason. But
I would say now every shoot of the past 6 or 7 shoots, he's on. Yeah. He is my go-to, and we're developing this language. So you're never quite there, but you keep working at it.
I got to give it to like Diamond View, where I used to work. It was like they kind of let me go in, and I didn't know. When I left skateboarding, went to production. Like, I kind of knew I was a one-man band doing that, and like shooting, editing, like everything, producing, pre all that stuff. But that gave me the chance to go. I directed for them. I edited, and and then gaffing, just grip and electric, spoke to me as far as the energy, the physical aspect of it. You're right there next to the DP. You feel, like you're just as a part of it without like the things you don't want to deal with, those few years, like I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
so Dylan, you brought up that with the new people coming into the industry, they might not know the lingo that has been used for years and years. Someone screams out, "Hey, I want a par and a hi hat," or "I want a Dino up on a Mambo stand." Most people don't know what that means, right?
Yeah.
So how important do you still think it is to know, not only, especially as a DP, not only know the glass, what you're operating with, what your LUTs are in your camera, but also being able to talk to your gaffer in a way that they can understand what you're asking for?
First, the technical stuff, you need to have it down always, right? The gear you're using, why you're using it, the LUTs, the glass. When it comes to lighting, in what I look for in a gaffer is like, because the technology changes so fast now with lights. Yep. And so when I describe stuff to Joe, it's very generic, or I might be like, I need some light scraping right here, and I needed to wrap a little bit, and I hope now he understands that stuff, right? And then his job, we'll talk a little bit about the type of gear, but it just moves so fast, and I really don't care. Some DPs are really specific of the type of bulb they want to use or whatever, but I don't really care. I want the gaffer to be most comfortable with that, because he also has to know how to power it, and deal with the electrical situations. What's possible in that scenario, and I trust him so much that it's like, I need the light to do this, and here's an image to show you an example, and then just try to get there however you can.
Yeah, that's really interesting because like I gave the two examples, like a Dino or a PAR or something like that. But now one Sky panel can do all of those things. It's really just understanding how you're painting with that light and what the color temperatures you want. How has it changed just in the couple of years you've been doing this? Because you're right, lights have progressed exponentially in just 5 years. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's becoming pretty complicated. Like, there's like blackout, there's DMX systems, and everything can talk to each other on one program, and it's like, and still I'm just starting getting my hands dirty with that stuff. But yeah, it's
the last shoot we were on a few nights ago, I was like, hey, that backlight's a little spicy, and he pulls out his phone and starts messing with his phone. I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm controlling the whole lighting scheme right here. Scheme. And I mean, we had lights everywhere, and he was controlling all from his phone, and they were beautiful. So, I mean, it's definitely more complicated, but it's becoming more easier as well, I think, to control and to kind of get in this area.
There's some gnarled old gaffer right now angry because his back is twisted in seven different places because he's been lifting 400-pound lights his entire life. As you've transitioned to the professional world, do you guys still find time to go out and do your own things that are meaningful to you and you feel are creative? I mean, are you still doing skateboarding videos? Are you still going out and just enjoying photography? Or is it now because you've turned it into your work, you do other things?
I mean, like, I would love to say I still do that, but it's like, it's definitely like I don't have an interest to do that anymore. Like I used to like, I've done a tattoo video for my buddy that works at Atomic down the road, and or like joined my friend's like film festival that was like did a skate video that just shot it all at nighttime in downtown. But yeah, if that opportunity was there and it could be done, absolutely, I'm totally still into that.
What about you, Dylan?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a good way to put this. Because I have we can do a whole other podcast on art and commerce and how all that works together. Commercial filmmaking is very difficult. You have to do a lot of projects at once, right? I mean, I remember a year and a half ago, I was managing 14 projects, right? And they're not big. I mean, it can be small projects. So just recently, I've started to turn my attention back to trying to make some art that inspires me, that has purpose. And then also trying to convince clients that there's a better way to do maybe their story. I can mold it to be something that's more enjoyable for me.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting because you get hired for the work you do, right? And most of the time on your reel or your website, you put your passion projects. I can't tell you how many times I've been hired for a passion project which I paid no money to make or got paid no money to do.
Sure.
And then the client, they get you for their passion, and then they want to mold it differently. And it's like, well, you like the way I did this, so why don't we just stick with that kind of theme, right? So I'm getting better at also explaining to clients and walking them through pre-pro to get to a place where I want to shoot it, right? And not feel like I'm getting beat up or the project's falling apart because of whatever reason. I'm trying to get back to shooting more passion stuff and doing what I love. And yes, I still shoot 35 millimeter film, walk around town and shoot stuff and develop it, so I'm always, because I still don't know enough, you never stop learning it, and I'm still learning stuff with film. I mean, I'm finding time for it.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up because you do see a lot of clients that are finding crew, especially, DPs, photographers off of Instagram because they like what they're doing, right? The creativity of it. And then they immediately try to get them to do something completely different than what they were doing. And they seem to have missed the forest through the trees. It's like, what brought you to this person originally? And it wasn't to have them do service work for your idea. It's because whatever they were doing spoke to them as far as their marketing plans go. So it's weird how that's been transitioning. Let's talk about just the magnitude of service work. You mentioned that you were doing managing 14 some odd shoots just not too long ago, and not to bring up, both of you have worked for medium to large size companies, and both of you guys are freelancing now. Which did you prefer? I mean, would you go back to working in a big-sized company, medium-sized company, or do you like the freedom of being able to pick your own projects without the security net, obviously, of guaranteed work over and over?
Right. Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to both sides. When I work for the companies, they start out with good intentions, right? We were involved in building that production side of that company for years, and then it just becomes the beast gets too big, right? So it's a little hard, and it's okay because the beast, they need to feed the beast, right? It costs a lot of money to turn the lights on in those places. Sure. So the security is nice, but you start to do so much and get so distracted you can't focus, right? Because if we're going to talk about making art, you need to focus on it. You need to make sure you're an auteur, right? Your voice is being pushed through to it, and you need to have time to think about it, right? I always argue that was the biggest issue with agencies is you don't have the time to think, right? And you're essentially getting paid to think, right? Like that's why they're hiring you to do stuff. So
and be creative, yeah.
And be creative, yeah. So if you don't have the time to think and be creative, then what's the point? So I learned a lot. I learned a lot of stuff coming up through the agencies. I did it for 11 years almost. And so, and the friends we've made and everyone that's involved is from those days. So now being freelance, I lose sleep a lot now, right? Yeah. Trying to manage that, and I'm getting better at it because it's, I did freelance before the agencies for a couple of years, and then went to agency, and now I'm back freelance. But having the freedom to say no is the most powerful thing you can have as a creative. And pursuing, you have to learn how to manage it when you're stressed, pursuing creative activities and making sure you're inspired, whatever that may be to you, reading a book, going out and shooting something, traveling, making sure you're doing that because that's what your job as an artist, right? Is to get inspired and to make sure you're communicating some kind of idea.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite end of that. Like when started in January, I'm really enjoying it. I just love being available, or not being available, and just the opportunities that come with it is like you just would never have that, with being locked down somewhere. Or,
do you guys have a favorite project you've worked on over the years? Start with you, Dylan.
It's a good story because I got a call from. All right, so I'll back it up. 2 years ago, I made a spec video for a knife company based out of Toronto. And I just like the knives. I like to cook, right? Me and my brother cook a lot. So my brother and I went and made a spec video and sent it to him, never heard from him. 2 years later, I get a call from the CMO of the company. She's like, is this Dylan? She's like, well, we've been using your spec video. It's the highest grossing ad video we've ever put out in the market.
Without paying you. They just thought it was a free.
Yeah. Well, I set it up that way. I sent it to him and I was like, hey, I appreciate it. Like, I want to work with you guys in the future. Here's a video. So it's kind of my fault. So anyway, she's like, well, we want to hire you to do more product videos. I go, I'm sorry, I don't do product videos anymore, but I appreciate you giving me a call. And she's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I would love to do more original content, like a docuseries for you guys. And I reference Yeti Films sometimes, right? They do really cool films, and they barely show a product. And so sure enough, they agreed to do it. And so now we're planning our 5th one. They're all over 15 minutes long. They give me total freedom. They've performed very well for them online. I mean, basically, like the first film was we went to New Smyrna Beach and highlighted a fishmonger. He's like one of the last fishmongers left in Florida, right? And I showed the knife like one time in 17 minutes. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I sent it to them, and they're like, wait, where's the product? And I was like, remember, guys, we're going to just like tell a human story here. Yeah. And so now we're planning our 5th one, which is going to be for a free diving lady in Hawaii. And she uses the knives to fillet fish and stuff when she catches them. So anyway, I liked it because one, there was trust there, and something else that happened with the company. I don't mean to go on long here, but I got a call after like the 3rd film, and the CEO of the company was like, I didn't realize about we're having a cultural shift in our company. Now people are asking about what we stand for in the company, because we're making videos or films that have heartfelt stories, and now what does the knife company stand for against these people? And so there's really interesting things that happen if you just stay true to it and you work really hard at it, and you find interesting people to tell stories about.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I've always loved that thinking with Dylan of just like, like I had to show the knife once, but because it's about the story we're trying to, tell through it, and that's a byproduct, and I just think that's rad. What was it? Favorite project you worked on? I mean, the only one that like comes to mind that was like so rad, the whole experience, was something I just did on my own. Like it was my buddy Casey Wayne. He tattoos at Atomic in Ybor, and I just had this idea of like just this rad, like the process of a tattoo happening, and I literally just asked all my like, DP, a Gaffer, friends around me, and I directed it, and it was just like they all came together and just like saw what I saw, and for free, and just kind of scrap gear together, and then it was like all this just like because they believed in what I saw and what I wanted to do, and like that was like and then the product is like amazing. It's just like the video that came out of it was really cool, but it wasn't a gaffing project, but
it could have been any project.
I can tell you a project that we worked on that I thought was kind of interesting. So he does a lot of stuff in a big volume, big LED wall volume, and so I DP'd a commercial for Florida Department of Transportation, and we had to do all these scenes in a car. And the whole commercial's in a car when they're driving, right? So naturally, let's go shoot in a controlled environment. So we went to the volume. I think this is the first time maybe I worked with him.
I think so. Yeah, this is like.
And I don't know if you've ever been in a volume, right? They've shot The Mandalorian and all those types of movies in these things, and they're very intimidating and impressive.
Yeah.
And so I walked in there, and we had our cars and our scenes, and I was like, "What do we do?" There's like this 360 world. And I just remember working with him and figuring out how to light cars and light scenes, and from the top and the back and everywhere. And that was the first time I worked with him. I remember, we had all the headgear on. It was all like real
headsets,
all
just
the headsets,
chatting with each other, yeah.
And it was like 2 14-hour days, and you get a headache in there. I had to put blue blocking glasses on because it's like you're looking at a computer screen, the biggest computer screen in the world.
Immersive, and then like the lights and. You get dizzy in there sometimes.
But it was impressive to see him lighting that because it's a whole different new style of lighting. I mean, I don't even know how that even works.
Yeah, which I was actually going to bring up because we work with Diamond View a lot. That's the company you guys were talking about. An LED volume technology. It's not going to replace location filming completely. It never will. Just like digital will never replace 35 millimeter ever.
Correct.
Right? I mean, there'll still be those choices made. But if you are working in that LED volume space, you're not lighting the traditional way. It's extremely different. You're both lighting with the overhead LEDs, the side LEDs. Yeah. You have your own practical lights you're bringing in. I mean, you sort of started there, but how has that opened your eyes to lighting in different ways? And then I'll ask you about DPing it.
Yeah, I mean, just the way you light in there, it's always about the background. It's always about like, if it is an unreal background or not just some abstract color, it's kind of like you have to look at that world and go, okay, where's the sun? Just like you walk into any room that you're shooting in, where's the sun? and then you just have to like shape it from there, and then like that's what sells that effect of that. And then again, it's definitely a lot more complicated. Of like you have to work with the LED wall text, and like it's just like you're having to like communicate like crazy, and but it's definitely fun, but it's definitely complicated.
What's it been like actually filming in that space?
All I remember from that shoot is Joe bringing out like 14 flags. If you don't if you don't stop a gaffer, they'll just bring out the flags after flags. It's like, stop, we don't need more flags. It's all
good. Be a light left. There's just flags around bullpen hole.
Because there's so much stray stuff going on in there, and we were doing moving cars on a road, so we were trying to match that world with the ceiling, and we're using circle polarizers to try to eliminate reflections, and then he's bringing out another flag.
You're just really it gets dirty, man, real quick, and then you can't have any light you bring on there. You can't have it spilling on the wall because it's just that's the whole thing.
It's fun though. I mean, I'd much rather think be on a process trailer and be out in the world just because it's more exciting, and I think actors and performers, they perform better when they're in environment and they can feel it and they can feel the road. But there's a time and place for it as well, based on budget and all that. But
obviously it's very complex to close down a road, have a process trailer running parallel to a car. Yeah. And the more traditional way, if you were doing it in post, would just be to shoot plate shots and then shoot a static car somewhere. But that had its own problems because there's no live reflections in the car, especially if you have a reflective paint or something like that, or even the windows. You got to put all that in post. So has that changed the way you've thought about the image? Are you in that volume space? Can you still look at it as if it is actually on the road, or are you just always seeing an artifice behind?
I'm always seeing an artifice now, especially in TV shows. You can see it's
very
everywhere.
Clear,
It's everywhere, and I mean, I don't think the viewer cares, because content is there's so much of it now. Like it's like I don't know what the value is in going and shooting and closing down a road. Although I think we just talked to you to close the road down, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. But I can see it. I mean, it doesn't bug me that much, but I just feel like performances struggle because of it. I don't believe the performances that much. But yeah, so that's kind of thing.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about just not necessarily from a DP's or gaffer's perspective, but just consumer perspective. You've mentioned a couple times now that there is so much content out there. What is the content that's actually, in your opinion, working right now and actually still talking to an audience and not just being, I don't want to say pornography, but just white noise in the background, right? So what is it that's actually working these days?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, the storytelling is becoming more valuable, right? So the stories that are really good are going to rise up, I believe, because all the noise we have that we're thumbing through, it's entertaining, but there's nothing there, right? Yeah. There's no heart to it. So I believe the filmmakers that are making really compelling stories will continue to rise. You're seeing it a lot. I mean, there's a lot of high-end directors fighting for that. I mean, I think Scorsese has like it's called like the film fund or something, where all the directors get in. Yep. Now they're at a different echelon of that, but they're fighting for content and limiting the release of it, because the more you release content, the more devalued it is, right? Absolutely. The more of anything, supply and demand. So there's this interesting thought, because I also, like, if people always ask me like, oh, like the iPhone now can film movies. Are you scared? I'm like, no, I embrace it. Yeah, like, bring it on. Because the more content people make, the more people want to see it, right? Yep. But then the flip side of that is that it also is devaluing content. But there's an advantage, because then if you can become a better storyteller and make a more compelling film, it should stand out against all the other noise. So it's a double-sided thing there. Did I answer the question?
You did.
Okay.
Joe, what are you watching, and what's actually working for you or clicking with you as you're scrolling through whatever social media?
That's interesting. For me, I don't know. I just watch old movies. I just watch classics, man. Or like,
nothing wrong with that.
Like, yeah,
to your point, it's probably the stories that are clicking.
Because it's because of like, it's just like new Netflix movie, and I'm just like, there's a few red flags. I'm like, nah, like I won't click on it. Yeah. I don't know. That's just what I'm watching. And then I mean, some shows that stick out, or even rewatch some old TV shows. But I don't know. That's just like what I like to watch.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My wife and I will sit down and watch a movie pretty much every night. If it's a newer movie, we tend to not watch the whole thing, and it's like time for bed. You put on an older flick, I mean, you do that the whole time.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
It's subconscious, right? Like, you're just there the whole time. So there's something to be said about that, and just the attention to detail in the older films.
Yeah. So let's turn to a younger generation now. I always hate asking people to give advice, because it's usually the same advice. But I'm interested in your perspectives. If someone wants to be a DP, if they want to get into cameras, what is your best advice for them? And then if they want to get into lighting, start with you, Dylan. Yeah,
I think if you want to DP and work in that field, it's just go out and make stuff. I can't stress that enough. Just make. I mean, the number one rule of writing is to write, mm-hmm. right? So just you keep making and make passion projects, and show people the stuff you care about, and you'll get hired for the stuff you care about. And I think I've learned that a little too late. I mean, I'm still learning it, but I wish someone had told me at 21 or 20 years old, just like, go make cool stuff. Yeah. Don't worry about it, For real. And don't, you got to get paid as well, so you got to figure out how you're going to pay the bills. But I think just making, just stop talking about it and just go make it.
Find your local, grip and electric house, and just go work in there, or bug the hell out of them. I'm
going to break in only because if the viewers have been listening to all of my podcasts, that is my number one ever suggestion, is if you want to get into cameras, or gaffing, rigging, whatever, go to a local rental house, man. You'll learn how to load the truck. You'll learn the name of everything on there, man.
You learn it from start to finish.
Spot on. So you heard it from Joe. I've been right. That is the way to do it. I like asking this question just because I'm always interested in what influenced people. And you might have three answers to this, but if I were to ask you what your favorite movie of all time was, and let me preface this, because my definition of favorite movie is you're sitting on the couch doom scrolling on a Sunday, and no matter what part of the movie is on TV, if you see it, you're going to watch the rest of it. That's your favorite movie. What's yours?
I don't know. I just rewatched the 4K scan of Rad. Yep. Have you ever seen Rad? Mm-hmm. And it is awesome, because I just remember the 4:3, low res, low def. But I don't know. I like a movie called Eat, Drink, Man, Woman by Ang Lee. That's always been one of my favorites. Princess Bride has always been one of my favorites. Willow, they're just remaking it, which I'm not going to go see it, but
TV series. No, it's a sequel. That's right.
Yeah. Willow is just legendary, because those movies like Willow and Princess Bride, I remember being staying home sick from school when I was a kid, and just consuming those on repeat over and over. And probably because that's only 4 VHSs we had.
Right.
But so those movies always hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah, that's great. Joe?
I mean, I think mine's Fight Club.
There's nothing wrong. That's a great movie too.
It's just I can't not watch it, and then I just it made me want to throw all my things away and just live in a dirty house. I don't know. I just think that's it was the coolest.
Aren't you doing that right now?
I mean, yeah, kind of, yeah. See, it's subconsciously just happening. Yeah, but I don't know, something about it was it just clicked, and it's a great movie.
Yeah, that's perfect. So we're coming to the end of the segment here. I like to wrap this up by asking what you guys are working on right now. So do you have a project coming up that you're working on?
We're in post-production right now for a few things. The next project that I'm a lot of my life now is bidding, right? I'm bidding on projects, and I'm trying to write them and win them and go produce them. So I'm working on a project right now that would take place in Texas, West Texas, in October. And it'd be like a 2-week documentary. We're going to do 6 episodes that they're going to put on like RFD TV on DirecTV. And so I'm bidding on that right now and writing scripts, what those 6 episodes will look like. So I have some small little things, but that's kind of like the big, what I'm trying to pursue right now.
Yeah. You need a gaffer for that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
What about you, Joe?
I'm for hire, wide open. No, I'm just kidding.
You got to wear cowboy boots.
I mean, I actually just got a call about some travel stuff, going to Maryland for something. So, I mean, it's really like I'm pretty wide open right now, which is cool. But I mean, Bob's always got me at first unit. And yeah. I mean, I have like, it's wild. Like I'm like, I don't know if something's coming up, and then man, it'll like it pours. Like it's crazy.
That's great. Let's end this with some social media plugs. But before you plug it, do you find value in creatives engaging in spaces like Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, especially for what you guys do? I mean, do you use that to find crew or look at inspiring photos that might influence what your next job is, or is it just white noise?
I mean, it's a tool, right? Yep. So if you know how to use a tool properly, then you can benefit from it. The only thing I'm on right now is Instagram.
Yeah.
Same.
And it is a good thing to look at what people are doing and kind of just there's been many times when I see him post about something, I see a light in the background, I'm like, what is that? Like how are you doing that? So there's a benefit there. I don't really use it to try to get work. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I ever have gotten work. Maybe I have. I don't know, but yeah. It's a lot of white noise, and if you're smart about it and you know how to use the tool, then it can benefit you.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of like you'll get small things here and there, like quick little bits of info from someone, or that But yeah, I don't think I've gotten work from that. But I also just use it to make if I got someone on the crew I don't know, I could just make sure they're not psychopath or anything.
Right. Yeah. There's no serious red flags that pop up real quick.
That's easy for.
So if people are interested in engaging with either you guys, hiring you guys, where should they go to find more about you? Don't give your phone number away. That's a really bad idea on a podcast. But
sounds fun.
Start with you, Dylan.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of my Instagram handle right now. Instagram's a good place to do it. I think it's DYL_, DYLLLL. Dill. And there's a good story behind that because the day I got married, my wife's handle was Tay with a bunch of Y's. Yeah. And so I surprised her by changing my name to match hers.
I love that.
Because I used to have Dylan Melcher as my handle.
Yeah.
And now if you have your name, it's not cool, right? You don't want to have your full name on there. So it was a good shift, but I surprised her with Dill because she's changing her last name, and so I changed my Instagram handle. Yeah. I thought it was a sweet gesture.
I love that. Yeah. It's romantic. I'm not that kind of person, so I would never have thought of that. What about you, Joe?
That reminded me of like why my name, my tag is what it is, but it's HIDEF Joe, High Def Joe, and that came from when I first started working at skate park at Tampa. I was the guy that had the HD camera.
Yep.
Because it was all like everyone shoots VHS, and I was like, I got this, and that was like, I was High Def Joe.
High Def Joe, I love
like
it.
somebody
That's
made me
awesome.
that, Twitter to handle it.
Well, if you're listening, Jesse will put this in the comments, so they'll know how to get you guys. But it's been a pleasure. Thanks for talking with me, guys. Best of luck, and for those listening, we'll be right back. And welcome back. That was an awesome little podcast, Jesse. We did a pretty good job today.
It wasn't little.
It was
pretty dynamic.
Excellent job booking our guest this week.
Thank you.
We learned a lot.
2 very important roles on a film set.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's always important to hear perspectives from crew, not just, you quote unquote above line talent, people who are actually doing it, right? And learn their way, learn their craft.
Yeah.
So some of the things that you picked up on.
Well, they've both been doing it for a while.
Oh, yeah, 10 plus years.
So, they earn their stripes, and they kind of earn the right to pick and choose their projects. They're both freelancing. Yep. And when Dylan walked in here today, I was like, what are you working on? And he was telling me what he was working on, but he was like, I've been saying no a lot more than I've been saying yes. And I was like, that's a very empowering feeling, I'm sure.
It is. I like saying no a lot better than saying yes.
I know.
Most of the time. You have to work with me. But, I think people forget, to segue into our next conversation, just how many crew members are on a film set, right? I mean, it's a lot. And you pulled some statistics, actually. So.
Well, sort of. I asked Instagram. That's what I do. I asked Instagram. I was like, how much? I just wanted to know the average follower, what they thought went into a film set. Someone said 50 crew members. I asked them. I was like, how many crew do you think are involved in a film shoot? And they said 50. And then another person said 9,000. which is a little much. And then
You've
another
only ever
person
watched Marvel movies, and that's literally just the special effects team.
Well, another person said 33, and I was like, that's really specific to a shoot that you worked on, probably.
Yeah.
But then I wanted like the statistical answer. I reached out to the director of Film Florida, John Lux, who's been on an episode of our podcast earlier, so that's probably why you know his name. But he said he usually says from start to finish of any project, from development to distribution, around 1,500 people, give or take.
Yeah, and that's the median, right? So there's going to be the joking about a Marvel movie. There's going to be a Marvel movie out there that blows it out of the water, and there's going to be a small indie movie that, is half that number. But I think it's a pretty good statistic as far as how many people actually touch a film or a film project in some way, shape, or form through its life cycle. And, people think about, production, post, maybe distribution, but there's actually, 7+ phases to actually the life cycle typically of a project. That people don't think about, right?
Yeah,
and
just scroll on IMDb, and you will see on any given project that there is a lot of credits. Well, I mean, stay after the movie. I mean,
also true.
Yeah,
but I mean, even then, you don't really get the full picture of who the people were developing this, right? Who's the finance teams that put all the back end money together? What was the marketing team doing? There's so many different positions that touch or are responsible for films, which I think is cool. We're one of the few industries, I think, truly, that no matter what your passion is, whether it's cooking or photography or audio or hell, if you are a great gardener, right, there is a job somewhere.
We've had productions, Hallmark movies filmed here, where it was literally they needed to hire gardeners, and they brought in bags of mulch to set deck.
You need greensmen to come in, and everything in the frame is placed there specifically. So if there's a flower there, someone had to place it there, right? Yeah. So literally, the film industry is so encompassing of just about every interest you could possibly imagine. There's a role for that. Which is
I
really
also
cool.
asked our audience again, I was like, what's the first role that you think of when you think of a film set? And a lot of people said director. I mean, obviously, that's like, you think of it, you think of a director. A few people said editor, and one person said gaffer.
So here's a trivia question live right now. I'm going to ask you. So at the end of the movie, there are single title cards, which are always your above the line. So that's going to be your actors, your director, sometimes the composer. But what is the very first credit during the scroll phase of the credits?
So what is the very first credit through the scroll phase?
Yeah, so when you start seeing those credits scrolling up, what's the very first one?
Sound?
No, not even close. Sorry to our audio guys. They probably should be the first, but no one actually cares about the sound guys.
Sound design.
They're the curmudgeonly people who stop the set because there's a plane flying 45 miles away.
All the soundtrack stuff I know is at the end, but what is it?
It's the production manager. So the production manager or unit production manager,
UPM.
if it's a
you know what?
job,
now that you say that, I knew that.
It's the production manager. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Always. That shows how important the production manager is.
That is
they actually
interesting.
pull together all the below the line stuff on a film set. So one way or the other. So
I like that.
With that, let's wrap it up.
Yep.
Jesse Brock, where can they find us?
We are Loose Framing Podcasts. Listen to us anywhere you stream podcasts or watch us on YouTube. And don't forget to follow @Film Tampa Bay on all social media.
And with that, we'll be back next time.